Hello again, everybody. And first of all, apologies about my not posting last week a video. I did say I'd post one last week, but quite frankly, my experience in the hospital last week was quite non-eventful. I went and I had my injection of bortezomib, I think it's called, one of my chemo treatments, and all my other treatments are taken orally at home. There's three different chemotherapy drugs which I've outlined in other videos, and the rest are sort of anti-infection, anti-nausea, that type of thing, things to counteract the side effects of chemotherapy. And being honest with you, I've had very, very little side effects from the chemotherapy. I've had a couple of aches and pains, which I used to get anyway. And if you think about the myeloma affecting all my visual skeleton and lesions on my skeleton, some of these things you would expect. But like I say, the last couple of weeks have been non-eventful. I've pretty much been living a normal life. I'm feeling pretty good with it. But today was different because I was telling you in the first videos, my induction treatment, which I'm on now, is in 4 cycles. 4 cycles of 21 days, 3 weeks, and then you see the consultant to see how things are going. And today I seen a consultant, so it's quite significant. And I did have some apprehension, if I'm being honest. For the simple reason, today I got the results of my bone marrow biopsy. And this can determine genetically whether you're standard risk or high risk. Now, historically, high risk patients had what they call an OS, an overall survival rate of just 3 to 5 years, because they found that the treatment didn't respond as well in people who had certain genetic dispositions. The other indicator, obviously, of whether you're standard or high risk is how well the treatment is working. So today I was going to find out whether it was high risk or whether it was standard risk. Now, for those of you out there who have been diagnosed as high risk, I'd like to say I've read a lot over the last week. And from what I can gather, nowadays, quite often, high risk patients are getting a similar overall survival rate to those of standard rate. Certain people are. So the treatment is much improved, it's much varied now, and you can adapt the treatment today. They can vary the treatment in accordance with whether you're high or standard risk. So, so there's hope both ways. But the good news for me anyway is that I was standard risk, which was, I'm smiling inside today because the overall survival rate, the median overall survival rate, as they call it, which is the average survival rate for somebody with multiple myeloma, standard risk, which is 10 years, is round about 10 years. Quite a few people live a lot longer, twice that amount. So it's given me much hope about my future. Um, the other thing I wasn't expecting to get today is that they've taken a lot more blood tests today to see how the treatment is actually working. So I wasn't expecting to get any indication of how the treatment was going for till the end of my second cycle in 3 weeks' time, when I will get a much more in-depth view of how it's going. However, my consultant, Dr. Harton at Glenclwyd, told me today that all early indications are that the treatment is working effectively, which you can probably see a bit of a smile on my face today. My heart's smiling a little bit today because I have got a lot of things I'd like to do in life, and nothing will stop me doing them. So, two good things. I've been diagnosed as standard risk, and early indications are that the treatment I'm on, which is a great regime, I've been told, the regime I'm actually on is one that's often used with high risk patients as well. So I've had fantastic treatment. So there's lots of hope there now. The other things, the last few weeks, again, you question your own mortality. You think about your own death. You start thinking about wills. You start thinking about And people say, that must be terrible. But in all honesty, it goes beyond how we can't think of our own deaths. We can't possibly contemplate what it's like to die. So I'm finding it. I don't really have a fear of death. I think the biggest worry when you're faced with, doubts about your own mortality, how long you'll be on the earth before you die, sort of thing, is that the people you leave behind. I mean, one for me, my mum's in her 80s. She's got a lot of issues of her own, physical issues of her own. And then, there's the upset it causes the likes of my beloved sister and brother-in-law and nieces, nephews, and whatever. So you're faced with them sort of, they're things that are obviously concerning, let's say. But regarding, for me, your own mortality, it goes beyond how I can think. I can't even begin to think what it's like to be dead. And I'm sure if I was dead, I'd stop worrying anyway. We either go on to another dimension or we go into sort of some sort of abyss where, we don't know anything. So I am, so whichever way, death is not really a fear for me. What was a fear and what's always been a fear is becoming um, sort of disabled in the sense that I can't do the things that I want to do in life. But I must say, at the moment, I'm doing all the things I love to do. I don't see why that should change. All my bloods are back in order at the moment. My calcium levels are back to normal, um, which indicates that the treatment is working as well. The graphs have all come down from up here to down here, which seem to indicate that the treatment's working well. So after the first cycle, which was today, my first cycle of 4 in the induction treatment, they decide whether they've got to introduce any other drugs. Mine are not getting changed. Mine are staying exactly the way they are because they seem to be doing the job. Okay. Dr. Hartman also said he will be writing to Christie's shortly because I will still be having treatments. Stem cell, let me get it right this time. Stem cell treatment at Christie's. That can potentially give you many years in remission, but that's very aggressive. And I'll talk about that nearer the time, I think. What's going to happen now? I'll be another 9 weeks on my induction treatments, another 3 cycles. Then I think I have an 8 week break from treatment, in which time I'm hoping to visit Lapland just after Christmas. So life just goes on the same as it did before. If anything, I'm feeling a little bit better than I was before, and I didn't feel too good. I didn't feel too bad before I was diagnosed, and I feel even better. So they're all good signs. Probably around about the end of February, beginning of March, maybe next year, I will go into Christie's for aggressive treatment. The objective there is to wipe the cancer out of your body. So it's very aggressive. You've got to be in a fairly good state of health to have it. And I've been through all the tests and I've been told I've got it, so I've signed up for it. The only problem is it used to be called revival therapy, I believe, because the amount of chemo they put into you is enough to kill you, basically, from some of the things I've read. This sort of pertains more, I think, to bone marrow transplants. I'm having stem cell transplants. Okay. So what the objective is there in Christie's is that not only do they wipe the cancer out, but hopefully, but they wipe your immune system out as well. And they use autologous stem cell transplants, which means they take my stem cells, harvest them, what it's called, give me aggressive chemotherapy, and then they try and replenish my immune system by retransplanting my stem cells, which will hopefully materialize into white blood cells and red blood cells and whatever they do. I'm not too up on that area of things, but that's all planned for next year. So all I can say with those of you who've been diagnosed out there, and maybe family members, is that it's not a death sentence. You know, it looks like I've potentially got many, 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 many quality years of life ahead of me. And I think on that note, this week, we'll end it. Thank you.